Welcome back, family. This is a continuation of the piece that we went into last week about Elias. And really, the whole piece centers around the thought of passing along knowledge and wisdom to the next generation. And there are, as always, some rich symbolism that's involved at the heart of the story. So, what did you pick up on? Well, let's find out. So as the story begins, we see that Elias is still at his particular trade, at his occupation, but he is greeted by a small young boy whose name is Owen. And the backstory on Owen is that his mother and father were taken from him by illness in the same winter. And so Owen is an orphan. And because of the situation and predicament that he finds himself in, he's passed from one family to the next in the town that he lives in, until after a while, the hospitality, the kindness, the humanity that existed, it simply vanishes. And now Owen has nowhere else to go. And so he shows up to Elias's mine, the area that he's currently working on, with a shovel. And the shovel is too big and it's broken. So now, and if you see me look off, I'm referring to my notes, okay? So what does the shovel in this particular piece illustrate? Well, it illustrates the fact that Owen here has an opportunity. He has an opportunity to be exposed to something that could change his life from this point on. And the fact that he took the initiative to come to Elias, it demonstrates that he has a humility that will allow him to be teachable. And it also shows the size of the shovel as opposed to young Owen. It shows that to meet an opportunity, a person doesn't necessarily have to be ready for that opportunity at that particular moment. The opportunity could be given to an individual and he could grow to meet that opportunity. He could grow to meet that challenge. And so we're introduced to this young man who has been through quite a lot of hardship in his life, and he has the opportunity in this particular instance to do better for himself in life. And so we see that Elias in the beginning, he gives Owen the physical manual labor. So he's carrying wood, he's cleaning up, he's making sure that the tools are in order. And then as time goes along, we notice that Owen begins to pay keen attention to what it is that Elias is doing. As a matter of fact, he starts to look at and examine the work that Elias has done. In certain instances, he notices that the way that Elias creates a structure is different in different areas. And Elias is very happy to see that Owen is picking up on the finer points of the work that they do in preparing mine. He's happy because not only is Owen doing the work, but he's learning to think. He's learning to reason. He's learning to look at situations and analyze them so that he will know how to handle those situations in the future. That's an important point. And as time goes along, we notice that Owen becomes freer to ask questions of Elias. And so he asks quite a bit of questions, a multitude of questions, if you would ask me. Why is this way? What kind of rock is this? So the story kind of helps us to appreciate that he's taking an interest in what it is that Elias is doing, and that interest is starting to manifest itself. So, did you notice what Elias's response was to Owen's many and various questions? He didn't reprimand him, he didn't scold him. His statement was that a man asks questions because he wants to know. He wants to know. And so it should not be any shame in connection with a person not knowing and taking the initiative to find out what information they need to be successful in whatever endeavor they're involved in. So, in the midst of this particular part of the story, after Owen has noticed that there's a difference in configuration in the way that Elias does things according to where he is or what kind of rock he finds, now Elias poses the question to Owen, tell me why. But before that, you notice that he hands him the hammer. Now, what's the significance of the hammer? Well, it's the accumulation, in my opinion, because I am the one who wrote the story. So it's the accumulation of practical experience and knowledge that Elias has. In passing on the hammer, he's passing that accumulated wisdom and knowledge on to Owen. And in the larger picture, it would represent him passing on everything that he knows, the skills that he has, into the next generation. But still, tell me why. Well, this is an important idea because Elias wants Owen not just to imitate. He doesn't want him to be a carbon copy of him. He wants him to understand the reason for the methodology that he's employing. He wants him to get behind what's being done and understand why it's being done this way and why this is the best thing to do. This is the best avenue to take according to the circumstance. That's an important point too. And as time goes along, after starting to develop his skills, after reaching a point where he no longer needs Elias to direct him in the way that he should go to pick out the strategy that he'll need to use, you notice that Owen's hands, they begin to change. They begin to become more callous. They begin to harden. And that's important because this transformation of his hands is a symbol of the fact that he's beginning to master this particular skill. He's beginning to master this craft. He's beginning to see how it is that he fits in to this particular occupation. And so it's a wonderful thing to see growth. It's a wonderful thing to watch someone you teach take the skills that you taught them, make them their own, and then use them to provide for themselves and those around them, and to really, and this is a good point for me, those skills serve to stabilize Owen's life. If you notice in the beginning, his appearance is rather shabby. His appearance is unkempt. But as time goes along, the more that he builds up confidence in himself, the more that he builds up confidence in the skills that he has, you'll notice that his appearance starts to change. Not just his grooming, but his physical features. His shoulders start to become broader. His arms start to define. His body starts to take on the form that's necessary for him to be successful in his occupation. Swinging hammers, carrying wood, moving rocks, all of that physical labor has begun to tailor his body to the things that he'll need to do in the future. So the callous hands are a wonderful sign that Owen is progressing toward mastery of this particular skill. We've come to a point where the changing of hands, we see that Elias and Owen have had a conversation about how it is that Owen picks the strategy to set up this particular part of the site for the mine. And you see in that particular picture that Owen does something familiar. He's listening to the earth. He puts his hand on one of the walls of the caverns and he's listening to the earth. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? Yes, it's the same thing that Elias would do. Listen to the earth to make sure that he can get himself in tune with the things around him so that he can make the right decision when it comes to the strategy that they're going to take. And then Elias questions on. He says, okay, how do you know what to do? And of course, Owen says, I don't know what to do. And Elias says, well, I thought you knew everything. And Owen humbly says, no, sir, no, sir. But he knows what to look for. And so Elias tells him that that is the start of wisdom, knowing what to look for. Every situation that you meet, you're not going to be equipped to make a decision immediately. But based upon the factors that are involved in that situation, you can look at those factors, you can weigh them, and you can come to a conclusion that will be beneficial. You can come to a conclusion that will befit mastery of the particular instance that you're in. Think about that. He can look at the rocks, the soil, right? Formation of the cave that he's in, that he's going to fashion into a place that they can come in mind. He can take all those factors and everything that he's been taught by Elias, and he can make a reasonable assessment, and he can put things in place so that the individuals who come in to actually do the deed can be saved. Now, there's a point in this particular piece that I appreciate. The need to have a modesty and to know your limitations. And one of the ways that the piece illustrates this is that the strongest man may not always be the one who swings the hammer the hardest or the strongest. It may be the individual who knows when to stop, when to say, okay, as far as the safety that's involved for everyone, as far as the ability to make this situation productive, that might not be the situation that you're in. You may have gone as far as you possibly can, and it would be beneficial for everyone to stop this pursuit. And that would be a necessary call, especially in this occupation, but in life in general. Sometimes you have to cut your losses, and you have to proceed to do things in a way where you can keep everybody safe and keep everything on track. So the changing of hands, right? Because now Elias and Owen are sitting around the fire, and Elias is recounting to Owen how it is that he came upon the knowledge of how to prepare mines. And so he made the statement that the miner before him, who was in his same occupation, passed the knowledge on to him. He didn't have to do that. He could have made everyone rely on him. He could have been the only source of that particular occupation, but he chose to teach Elias. And so even though that particular individual passed away, even though he's no longer on the scene, him changing hands, or his legacy changing hands, that was the passing on of his knowledge to Elias. And so just like the knowledge changed hands between Elias and his predecessor, now the knowledge is changing hands from Elias to Owen. Three generations involved in this very same occupation, and it was done by that knowledge changing hands. So that's an important point. 3 generations also is something I want to highlight. I just mentioned that. So you have Elias' predecessor, you have Elias, and then you have Owen. And one thing about knowledge and wisdom changing hands, you notice that it becomes a legacy. It's a legacy. Because all of the accumulated knowledge and wisdom from Elias' predecessor passed to Elias. And Elias took that accumulated knowledge and wisdom and he added to it. He compounded it. So in the next generation, he could hand to Owen more than what was handed to him. And it continues to compound. It continues the knowledge and the accumulated wisdom that you require by doing this particular pursuit over decades. It starts to compound. And so the more skillful that Elias becomes, the more skillful Owen will be. Because he's able to pass that skill, that precision, right on to Owen. And so 3 generations, yes, that's a legacy. That's the legacy. So now, when you look at the continuity between Elias's predecessor and Owen, you notice that these individuals, they were given a task that absolutely was dangerous. They were given a task that really the life of those who took on mining as a profession, their lives were in the hands of the individuals who went before them and prepared these mines. So this was a serious occupation. It wasn't one that individuals could just do haphazardly. No, there was skill involved in it, there was precision, there were things involved that had to be right in order for people to keep their lives. So now, Elias is at a point where he is too old. The piece mentions he's having issues physically with going deep into the mine. But he's comforted by the fact that he comes to the front of the mine and he sees that Owen has taken on a group of young men, young miners, and he is instructing them on this particular. He sees Owen at the front of the mine with a group of young miners, and he's instructing them on the best way to approach their particular assignment. And then even one of the apprentices makes a mistake. And Owen doesn't scold him. No, he shows him what to do, but then also he questions the theory behind it, the thinking process behind what it is that this particular apprentice was doing. And it reminds Elias of the way that he dealt with Owen. It reminds him of how patient he was and how he entertained his questions in an attempt to help him to understand what was behind the method that they chose. And so Elias is comforted by that. And in the last few scenes, we see that Elias is putting his hammer down. He's leaving it. And why is he leaving it? Because he's passed on that legacy now. He's comfortable with the fact that Owen is there, and Owen has fully been trained. Owen is fully capable of carrying on that particular assignment, and Elias is happy to allow him to do that. But it's interesting that at the beginning of this story, I don't pass the hammer on to Owen. I don't pass it to him. And I don't pass it to him because that continuity is so strong that it doesn't end with him. And that's the reason why I chose not to give the hammer to Owen. The hammer was given to a younger apprentice. Why? Because now Owen is stepping into the role of Elias. And I think that it's noteworthy that that's one of the things, one of the items at the forefront of Owen's mind and at the forefront of Elias's mind. We want to pass on to the next generation. That's what we're thinking. Even though it would have been nice to give the hammer to Owen, he already had the knowledge, he already had the know-how, he already had the wisdom. And so the only thing that was necessary to do at this point is to pass it on. That was the final hammer, right? So you're passing on this craftsmanship. You're passing on this experience. And in Owen's case, it's passed on to you with the expectation that you're going to teach the next generation. You're going to compound on that legacy, and then you're going to pass it forward. That was the thought process that I wanted to convey in this particular part of the piece. Now, what was the true treasure here? Was it the silver that Elias found? Maybe it was the accolade of knowing that, hey, I'm responsible for helping those in the village to earn a living for their families and perhaps acquire wealth for the next generation. That was not the true treasure. The true treasure in this particular instance was being able to take someone on and provide them with life and abundance, but then also to provide them with skill and wisdom and knowledge. See, a lot of times, as the piece mentions, the physical things that we have, the money, the resources, the houses, the cars, the things of that sort, in an instant, they could be gone. As a matter of fact, the piece say, in a day's time, everything that you own could be gone. But the fact that you're able to take what you know and pass it on to the next generation, that's something that's going to outlive anything that's physical. It's going to be there. And as long as there's someone that's willing to learn and be taught, and they're willing to teach someone else, then that legacy never stops. It's an unending legacy. And it's a situation where you are empowering the next generation to have what they need because of skills that have been accumulated over this continuity of time. And so I think that that's a powerful lesson. That's a powerful lesson. We have knowledge, we have insight on things, we have wisdom that we can pass on to the next generation that can help them to live a better life than what we may have experienced. So, here's the central lesson of this whole piece. The greatest legacy that a person can build is not something that's tangible. It's knowledge, skills, confidence, and wisdom that you've placed in another individual. Knowledge, skills, confidence, and wisdom that you passed on to the next generation. Well, I hope that you all enjoyed this particular Behind the Pen. As always, man, we are interested in conveying something that's positive, but at the same time, man, we want you to get something that you can take with you that will make life better for you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You know we love you. Peace!